So a little over a month ago, I posted a video essay looking at Amity Blight from the Owl House, and boy gee golly, did you guys like that video. Now with the Owl House currently on hiatus and me refraining from covering Adventures in the Elements until it officially airs here in the US, which is really hard because I want to talk about it so badly because it's just mwah. I figured it would be a good time to do another character analysis video essay, this time around looking at Willow. I've mentioned in a few of my videos before how I like that Willow isn't your typical pushover, quiet, nice girl, and I feel we should take a deep dive in exploring that. This is a video essay. Always look out for the quiet girl, a look at Willow. Now, like Amity, Willow is first introduced to us in episode 3, I Was a Teenage Abomination. From her introduction, we can already get a good grasp of her character.
Even if you get a bad grade, it's not a reflection of you as a witch. And my parents are right. There are better opportunities on this track. Now get to school!
This scene tells us a few things. First, Willow has self-esteem issues. Considering that she's in the middle of a forest trying to pep talk herself up about not being a failure, or even if she fails, it's not a reflection of her as a witch, we immediately see that she has some self-esteem issues. We also get told that Willow's parents are the ones who enrolled her in the Abomination track due to it having better opportunities. So in addition to the low self-esteem that she has due to struggling in school, she also has her parents making important academic decisions for her. However, despite the low self-esteem, we see how kind and gentle Willow is when she accidentally steps on a flower and revives it with the use of her plant magic. This cute moment doesn't last long, however, as Amity runs into Willow and gives her a, pep talk.
Wow, you're so unnoticeable I almost rolled into you. You don't have anything to show, do you? This is why people call you half a witch, Willow.
Aww, it's like mine.
But much smaller and meaningless. As top student, it's my duty to tell you to keep at it. Even you could get a passing grade someday. See you in class, superstar.
Now this is something that I covered in my Amity video and how this moment was great for her because it sets our expectations for her as a bully, and that's fantastic. But on the flip side for Willow, this scene also works in a fantastic way for her because this sets her up as the victim. By seeing Amity's smug and callous attitude towards Willow, we immediately sympathize with her. Although I will be coming back to this specific scene a bit later given some revelations in future episodes. Now, where I feel most shows would show a character like Willow just being down on their luck when facing a bully, I like that the Owl House shows an exasperated side of Willow, showing that she's not a total pushover and is an incredibly powerful and gifted witch in plant magic. Although it's also shown that when Willow gets this angry or upset, she loses control of her powers, as we see with her vines grabbing Luce. In Willow's conversation with Luce, we see her kind disposition developed even further, as Willow is instantly welcoming to Luce despite her being a human, even agreeing to sneak Luce into Hexside if Luce helps her get a good grade in her Abominations class. But by agreeing to these terms with Luce, we do get some more insight into Willow, because this shows us that Willow is not above cheating. While it may not be the most devious instance of cheating, it's still cheating at the end of the day. Say what you want about Amity, but she works hard for everything that she's earned. But Willow doesn't necessarily have bad intentions in cheating. She gets a good grade to have her classmates and Amity back off, and based on the conversation she just had with Amity, yeah, I really don't blame her. Plus, she would be able to let Luce see Hexside. Essentially, the means would justify the ends. Once at Hexside, we meet Gus, Willow's only friend. And if you couldn't pick up on the hints before, Gus will make sure that you know.
Okay, Augustus, I'm gonna tell you something, but you have to be cool.
I can be spool. I mean cool.
Willow and Gus are definitely not the most popular students at Hexside, and this will actually be elaborated on further in episode 6, Hootie's Moving Hassle. Once we get to the Abomination class, we see briefly how students outside of Amity treat Willow, calling her half a witch and groaning at the prospect of extra homework with another failed assignment. However, we see Luce successfully pull off the act of being an abomination and earning Willow the respect of the class, with the exception of Amity. In addition to this, we also see Willow receive the top student badge, much to the dismay of Amity. And for the record, I am totally with Amity on this. Not only did Willow cheat to get the badge, but she got it only after one assignment. Amity is presumably a straight-A student, but Willow, who's been failing consistently, gets one good grade and then all of a sudden she gets the top student badge? Yeah, I'd be upset too if I were Amity here. Compared to their first interaction that we saw between Willow and Amity, there was a faint hint of Amity actually wanting Willow to do well amidst all the jabs and gloating, but now we just get Amity calling Willow out, even calling her half a witch. After Willow and Luce get exposed, we see Willow use her powers to get an escape route for Luce, and she even gets Luce to safety, leaving herself behind. And this again reinforces both Willow's kind disposition and her natural talent at plant magic. Principal Bump being so impressed with Willow's plant magic that he moves her from the Abomination track to the plant magic track. With Willow looking to have a better life at school and a new friend in Luce, I Was a Teenage Abomination was a great episode to set Willow up as the quiet, nice girl, but has her moments of anger and is even willing to cheat in order to get what she wants, but is still kind and gentle at heart. The foundation of Willow's character is developed further in episode 6, Hootie's Moving Hassle. In the episode, we learn about moonlight conjurings, which are basically sleepovers where you animate an object to life. Willow and Gus were not invited to Amity's moonlight conjuring, so Luce, being the good friend she is, offers to host a moonlight conjuring at the Owl House. Now, I want to point out in this scene, Basha is actually the one who starts bullying Willow here, not Amity. Even when Basha and the rest of the girls look to Amity for some sort of cruel comment, she doesn't seem to be enjoying it like the rest of them. And when she says this,
Leave her alone. It's not her fault she was born without talent.
Yes, it was a horrible thing to say, but to me this was a heavily veiled comment to actually deter the rest of the girls away from bullying Willow, which she succeeds at. From I Was a Teenage Abomination, we see that Amity has no problems calling Willow out or taking a jab at her here and there. But in this scene, she's not even making eye contact with Willow. And this will make a bit more sense with some revelations later on in this episode. After Amity and her posse leave, we see again how if Willow's emotions get the best of her, her powers flare up. Once we get to the Moonlight Conjuring, Luce, Willow, and Gus actually animate the Owl House. And after stumbling upon Basha on her way to Amity's Moonlight Conjuring, Willow brings up the idea to follow her to Amity's house and show off their Moonlight Conjuring magic. And honestly, I really like this because this isn't the typical behavior the quiet, nice girl usually has, but Willow isn't your typical quiet, nice girl. I like that she has her moments of being petty and wanting to show off and stick it to Amity, because that is far more realistic and relatable. But because of Willow's pettiness, it gets the group tangled up with some demon hunters and in a situation of the group hanging from a cliff. And it's here we get a big reveal about Willow and Amity.
The truth is, she and I used to be friends. We played together as kids, but when she got her magical powers and I didn't, she stopped hanging out with me.
The reveal of Willow and Amity's past friendship gives a bit more context to their first interaction in the show. So I want to go back to I Was a Teenage Abomination. While yes, Amity was being mean to Willow here, there did seem to be some intention of motivating Willow, although that intent may have been second to gloating about her own accomplishments. Something else I want to point out is that in this scene, Amity is actually smiling when talking to Willow. In their interaction later in the episode, after Amity senses something is up with Willow's abomination, there is no smile. When looking at her interactions with Luce, the same holds true. Amity isn't smiling when she's talking to Luce, meaning that this moment here between Willow and Amity is different from others. Perhaps it's because the two used to be friends, and though there is a rift between them, Amity still wanted Willow to do well. However, after the events in I Was a Teenage Abomination, that went out the window. However, looking back at when Basha bullied Willow, Amity didn't join in, instead used a heavily veiled comment to deter her posse away from Willow. So is it possible Amity still has some complicated feelings about her and Willow's relationship? Most likely. And we clearly see that Willow does as well.
I just wanted to prove to her that I was a powerful witch too.
Wanting to prove that she is a powerful witch too means that Willow does admire Amity in some way for her work ethic and accomplishments. The thing that I find interesting is that Willow is incredibly gifted and powerful in plant magic, Luce even saying that she's the next most powerful witch to Ida. But Willow is fixated on being powerful in the same way as Amity and not in her own way. This revelation of her and Amity no longer being friends because Amity's powers developed first when they were younger could be an explanation as to why Willow feels this pressure to prove herself to Amity. Now, Willow does admit that she was wrong and selfish for wanting to stick it to Amity, and I appreciate for as petty as Willow was being, she is capable of self-reflection and acknowledging her mistakes. Through Willow's magic, the group is able to rid themselves of the demon hunters and return Hooty back to his usual spot, where Willow then takes the blame for having Luce host a moonlight conjuring without Ida's permission. And this again reaffirms that Willow is genuinely a kind and caring individual and looks out for her friends. And though Willow is under the assumption that Amity would never know of hers, Luce's, and Gus's accomplishment of animating a house, Amity, along with the rest of her posse, discover post of the trio's adventures that night. Which leaves the question of what's next for Willow, and more specifically, what's next for Willow and Amity. When it comes to Willow as an individual, I see her learning how to get her powers under control. We've seen her eyes glow when her plant magic becomes its most powerful, and it has yet to be directly addressed in the show. Plus, I see Willow also working on getting her self-esteem up. With Luce set to attend Hexside soon, I see this becoming more of a focal point since we'll be spending more time there. When it comes to Willow and Amity, that is a little bit more complicated. The two obviously have a rift between them, and with Luce already being Willow's friend, and Amity and Luce starting to form a friendship, I could see Willow's pettiness come into play at the thought of Amity taking Luce away from her. Perhaps Willow and Amity's relationship will be tied in with Willow's individual development with gaining more self-esteem, because I see enormous potential in the conflict of Luce being friends with both Willow and Amity for Willow's development. But I thoroughly enjoy Willow as a character. She's kind, caring, and gentle, which is appropriate for someone in the plant magic track, but also has her moments of being prickly and thorny, either through anger, cheating, or being petty. With Willow, Luce, and Amity's paths all seeming to converge up ahead, I am beyond excited to see how Willow's character grows in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time guys, take care.